So, yep, and we're recording. So thanks for that. Smile nice. All right, so we at the Community Foundation have been working with Tech Impact during the pandemic to help us with all of our tech needs, and Melanie has been such an amazing helper, and so we're so excited for her to be presenting today, and BVU, our partners who help us with all of our seminars and webinars for our nonprofits. So thank you all, and so Melanie, I'm going to kick it off with you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for braving technology early on a Friday morning. I know it's always an exciting topic, and there's always a ton of questions. So, look forward to spending the morning with you. Today, we're just going to talk about some tech basics and then some great free, low, no-cost tools. So a little bit about Tech Impact. Like Brittany says, we work with the Community Foundation of Lorain County. We're a nonprofit on a mission to use technology to better serve our world. I'm located here in, a little bit south of Cleveland. So I'm happy to be presenting to Lorain County nonprofits this morning. Just more about Tech Impact. We deliver on our mission in several ways. Starting on the left, we offer a full suite of nonprofit technology services, including everything from managed IT, supporting cloud services, data support services. Also through our Ideal program, we create independent, thoroughly researched technology resources like this webinar and our publications to help the social sector. And finally, we help young adults launch their careers by offering IT and customer experience training and affordable coding boot camps. All of these services are designed and delivered to help nonprofits and communities thrive. Just a little bit about me, my role at Tech Impact. I oversee and help develop nonprofit technology solutions. I have over a 20-year history working with nonprofits, BVU, and served quite a few roles just in the overall strategic direction of technology, systems and processes, marketing, communications, and event management. So pretty well-rounded in the nonprofit space. Today, it's a rough agenda. I won't lie. I waited until 9 o'clock last night to put this presentation together, always last minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to give you some tools and guidance on assessing your current technology and what might help you in the decision guide. I'm going to pull on a lot of what I do in speaking to nonprofits on a daily basis. So I kind of outline the presentation and what are the most common questions I get asked, or when I'm talking to a nonprofit one-on-one, where do I start with the assessment? We're going to touch on security. Obviously, that is a huge component of anything you do security-wise. Just recently we released a survey to nonprofits, and security came out as the #1 concern. I think as we're working more remotely, as staff have more and more availability of different tools in that, just as cybersecurity threats grow, security should be wrapped around anything you do. And then we're just going to go through some fun tech tools and resources. Some that I've worked with, I know of, but that's also going to be a great opportunity for you to share and share what you're using and what's working for you and what you're using it for. So we'll have some common breaks during the presentation because I think the best part of anything is when you guys share what you're using. So just assessing your current technology today, I look at 3 buckets when assessing technology. Is it, functional and secure, the infrastructure, that's your hardware, your internet, your firewalls, all of that. Then there's productivity and collaboration. That's your email, your file share, anything you do day to day to work together as a team. And then you have your data and strategic systems. That's your donor management systems, your program tracking, analytics. Today, we're going to talk mostly in the area of productivity and collaboration. Again, ensuring as we're going through this security, and then we're going to talk a little bit about policies and, procedures and ensuring you have the right oversight. And then user training is always key. And I'm sure you've heard it over and over, but just the benefits of the cloud. Are you maintaining a server? Are you using cloud technologies? I think most nonprofits are using cloud technologies, but if you still are maintaining and managing a file server, which a lot of nonprofits are, just so you understand the benefits of the cloud. It's low cost. You don't have any hardware. It allows great ease, remote access. Your data is secure and redundant. We're going to talk a little bit more about that though. Updates are done for you. It's reliable, mobile. It really does enhance collaboration. It's quick deployment, more storage, flexibility for growth, and then just overall cheaper in essence because you're not maintaining hardware. Now I know Teresa, you guys moved from a file server recently. So have you noticed an ease in just day-to-day productivity? And
we love having our files on SharePoint. And one of the advantages is, SharePoint can search through your massive amount of data and find like everything and really fast. That's what I love about it, because we're constantly looking for stuff.
it's almost like a Google for your files.
Yes.
It's not just the file name, it searches everything for it. So it really does
Right.
enhance finding stuff. And then the version control.
I just wanted to jump in there and say too, that you can create like an intranet site so that you can like post on one of those SharePoint pages, all of the stuff that you use most often. So there are quick links. There's just a lot of advantages, and I'll shut up now.
No, you don't have to shut up. But it's just as I know as someone who's recently done, and then the ease of pain of not having to purchase another file server in a couple of years and then having that set up and deployed. I mean, it's a huge benefit. With benefits also come disadvantages. So pricing can change. We're experiencing that right now with Microsoft. Smaller nonprofits aren't going to be impacted as much, but enterprise level nonprofits, those that have over 300 staff, Microsoft does this every once in a while, where they change their licensing. A lot of times they'll grandfather nonprofits in, and a lot of times nonprofits will just grab whatever's free. So if they've grabbed a ton of licenses just to have them, like, oh, they're free, I'm going to grab them. Microsoft is coming in and saying, no, there's an 85% rule now. If you're grabbing free licenses, 85% of those licenses need to be used now. So we have a lot of large nonprofits scrambling, like, what are my licensing options? I think most on the call today are small. If you're under 300 staff, not much is changing in terms of licensing. Again, you're going to need reliable internet because you're in the cloud. You need reliable internet to access it. If, maybe if that's a concern of yours, you can also even put in a redundant internet. But I think as technology grows too, we all have one of these. So everyone can turn on their hotspot and kind of still function even when the internet goes down. And then again, you have less control when updates and that gets done, when views change and all of that. Sometimes that can be really hard for staff when a view is changed when they're used to seeing something so familiar, and that's sometimes out of your control. Not backed up. Like we said, the cloud is redundant. Microsoft does everything it can to make sure that you're on redundant servers, and Google, all of them, all cloud softwares. The software is redundant, but it doesn't back up. So backing up your online cloud systems is extremely important, especially your email file share, your Salesforces, and all of that. So there are a lot of options for cloud backup. We recommend spanning. What you're doing is you're protecting yourself in case something gets lost. You have a rogue employee who decided to delete a bunch of stuff before they left so that you can always go back in time and recover. And then you're securing yourself against cyber attacks. and your information getting held. Having that online backup allows you to easily restore. And again, there we hit security. There are security options in every cloud platform, but just because they're there doesn't mean that they're necessarily being used. So you really have to understand what you're using and make sure that the right security settings are in place. Again, we're talking about unified cloud systems. I think most nonprofits are using either, now here we go into the whole rebranding, talk about something changing. I had to like put X's over the Office 365 is now Microsoft 365. They're going through a huge rebrand right now. So if I say Office 365, it's just because it's, you know, it's a language change for me. And then Google Suite went to Google Workplace. So they're both rebranding at the same time. Again, these systems are great because you're able to keep your file storage, email, calendar, office applications, your contacts, your meeting, your notes, your forms, everything that you need for productivity and collaboration are pretty much built into these tools. Doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is using one of these systems, and there are some ways. For example, someone might say, I'm using Microsoft 365. I got it through GoDaddy. That's not Office 365. That is GoDaddy's version of Office 365. You're limited in tools. Plus, then we're going to talk more into licensing. You're paying for GoDaddy Office 365 when you can get that pretty much for free to no cost through Microsoft as a nonprofit. So that's pretty much the first question I ask when a nonprofit comes to me. Where is your email hosted? Because that tells me a lot of insight into where the organization is. A lot of times they don't know. Do you know what I mean? They're like, I don't know where my email's hosted. Someone else set that up. There's a great tool called MX Toolbox. You can go up and look up your MX record and see where your email is hosted. So like I took Tech Impact as an example. I know that we're on Office 365 and Microsoft is hosting our email. If it was Google, it would say Google. If it was GoDaddy, it would say GoDaddy. If it was Network Solutions. So that gives me a lot of insight. And then I'm able to talk to the nonprofit and say, you know what, let's look at one of these unified cloud systems and how can we get you there? Licensing, like we said, licensing, this is Microsoft. There's such a wide variety of nonprofit licensing. And I think this is the biggest confusion point for nonprofits is understanding what licensing is right for them. And also, it's a lot of Microsoft versus Google when we talk to nonprofits. There's a lot of misconceptions. Well, Google's free. And, or I get this with Google. So it's just kind of breaking down those barriers. Microsoft, every nonprofit gets 10 free Microsoft Business Premium licenses. Can you see my mouse or no? So that would be the, hold on, I'm going to do something and see. Do the mouse. Can you see it now? Yes. Right here, this Microsoft 365 Business Premium. If you go and you look at all the features, obviously, when you look at Microsoft, everyone thinks of Excel, Word, PowerPoint, all those Office applications we used. In Google, it's Sheets, Docs. I don't know what the presentation one is. I'm sorry, I'm not a huge Google user, but they have some presentation tool in there. Everyone's like, yes, but Google gives me my apps for free. No, Microsoft does too. They give you web applications in their free version in the Microsoft Business Basic. But most of us love that desktop version because that allows us more features and controls in those applications. In order to get the desktop application, you want to look at either the business standard or the business premium license. First, every nonprofit should, if you are Microsoft, you should be grabbing your 10 free Microsoft Business Premium licenses. That includes all of the application downloads, all of that good stuff in there. The difference between the business standard and the premium, obviously price, this one's $3 a month, the other one's $5 a month, is what I've circled down here at the bottom. It's the security and the enablement of certain security protocols you can do with that enhanced license. And that is extremely important because you can, old time file server, your user authentication sat on the file server. Or you had some device management. You could wipe a device remotely and have that management. These two security tools in Microsoft allow you to kind of get a cloud network of your workstations and your user and be able to give you more security controls. And I know that's a lot, but and then we're going to talk Google. Here's Google's pricing. Everyone's like, but Google's free for nonprofits. When you use the free version of Google for nonprofits, you have limited storage. They're only going to give you 30 gigs of storage. Microsoft, for every user you get a terabyte of storage. So really you're getting much more robust storage in Office 365. Pros of Google is if you're a smaller nonprofit and you have a smaller staff, and Google is more of a consumer-based product because most individuals have had a Gmail account or have used Google, so the familiarity is there. Usually when an organization is on Google, it's because it's a culture, the staff, it's easier for them to use, or they're in education, and Google Classroom is a whole different animal, and that's why they would be using Google. If you want the advanced security protocols, just like we talked in Office 365, I'm not going to get in the whole what's more secure, what's better in terms of security, because that's a whole nother conversation, a lot of different points. But in order to get that security in Google, just like that Microsoft Business Premium license, you need to go to the Business Plus, which is $5.04 a month per user. I don't, that 4 cents always. So they're just that little 4 cents. But that's where you're going to get all of that endpoint management. Other file storage options. Sometimes you're a smaller nonprofit. Those other two systems, like setting up Google Workspace drives and setting up SharePoint, can be a lot for a smaller organization. It's a lot of work. So what we see is a lot of organizations, they might use Office 365 for email or Gmail for email, but then they use an integrated file storage system that integrates extremely well. Dropbox, Box, Ignite is another one. And if you go to TechSoup, these all offer nonprofit discounts as well. Box.org offers, like for smaller nonprofits, they use it, and I think it's up to 100 gig for free. So maybe in chat, everyone can just say, are you using Microsoft 365? Are you using Google Workspace? Are you using something else? Are you still on a file server? So if you want to share what you're using. So 365. It's typically what we see. About 95% of nonprofits are in Microsoft 365. Isn't that cute? Little free puppy. So she's so cute and she's free and you just grab her. So before we explore more productivity tools, we want to keep in mind that free isn't always free. It's important to research any tool to its entirety. Think about how much time you can afford to spend on testing new tools, researching, presenting it, training your organization. Adoption is always an issue when you introduce any new tool. Or if you're going to be one of the ton of nonprofits to say, hey, I get Salesforce for free, I get a nonprofit service pack. Think about development and what you need to get that free tool to work for your organization and the customization and development needed. Also, in addition, someone at your organization has to own technology and the tools you will use. There are so many free tools out there and they are readily available to staff. So my advice is make sure you have policies, tech policies. They don't have to be long, detailed, or complex, but you will have to dedicate time to it. Acceptable use policies kind of inform all users on acceptable use of technology. What technology organization uses, hardware, software. And it also covers the people covered by the policy. So we have a great resource. It's a policy workbook. It's a great guide. It also provides, as you do it, a great training guide. And then an opportunity to educate staff on the policies. And it's also an area to say, you know what, maybe we need some additional training in certain areas. As we're going through this policy workbook, no one even knew we had this tool or had this capability. It also touches on password policies, cybersecurity awareness, and bring your own device policies. So all very important. And I know more and more organizations, we're going to talk about cybersecurity awareness training. And a lot of cybersecurity insurance is now saying, do you have tech policies and procedures? And they want to make sure that you're keeping them up to date. If you don't have one, it's okay, because I do tech assessments and I would say about 85 of nonprofits do not have one, or they're like, we have something in our employee handbook, but I don't know what's in there. So if you haven't updated your tech policies and procedures, now is example of what you need to do. And Julie, great question. Policies adjusted with so much work from home. It's really important now, especially in the bring your own device area, in terms of individuals using personal computers. If you don't have a lot of time and money, like larger HIPAA organizations are saying, if anyone accesses these files from a personal device, they're not allowed to download them. They're not allowed to do this, this, and this. But for a smaller organization, setting up those security protocols, that's a lot of work and investment. So by having these policies, you're making it clear to employees, if you access our network on a personal computer, do not download files. Like those are examples. Security. So high level, you want to keep computers up to date, the hardware and patches and updates. You want to secure your environment, firewall, VPN access, anything like that. You want to give your staff cybersecurity awareness and training. KnowBe4 is a great resource. 90% of breaches or security things are because the staff clicked on an email they weren't supposed to. They were released by staff. Another great thing too is if you are a global administrator on any of your file systems that are tied to an email account, make that a blanket account that does not receive email. So we are not checking that email on a frequent basis, because that's the easiest way to give a phishing attacker global admin access to your environment. So by having that be a different account and you just being a regular user, it's limited in how much damage they can do once they get in. Use multi-factor authentication. I put that in all caps because it's your first line against defense. You want individuals to authenticate twice who they are. In Google, it's two-factor. Office 365, it's multi-factor authentication. Most of it means twice, multi. So if you have not implemented that, I would highly recommend it. As you grow and evolve, and as you're using a ton of applications, I would recommend either single sign-on through Okta or Office 365. What that means is that your creds will get you into other programs. It's called single sign-on. So if you're using Office 365 and you have Salesforce, you can just have single sign-on with your Office 365 creds throughout all those other platforms. So it's a nice security and also ease of staff, and not having to enter multiple passwords. Password vaults and managers, I'll share a couple of those at the end. Those are also really key for password management for the organization. Insurance, really important that you get cybersecurity insurance. I cannot tell you how many nonprofits I talked to where someone fell and wired an incredible amount of money somewhere. and they're out. I think my last call was $47,000 gone. And they didn't have cybersecurity insurance, and they were fighting with their insurance for the basic business. They're not going to get anything. You know, and it's really sad because that is money taken away from their mission. Also, if you're larger and you're not sure how to do all of this, consider having a IT firm or someone come in and do a security assessment, looking at, you know, all of your compliances. Are you HIPAA compliant, PII compliant, ERD? What's that one that went out of Europe? But there's a lot of compliances that nonprofits hold, and you have to ensure that you're compliant. So a security assessment will come in and tell you where all those weaklings are and where you're not meeting compliance.
Hey, Melanie, really quick before we leave that slide, I just want to say, I know that at the Community Foundation, we use the Know Before. And so there's like, I don't know if it's monthly, but we do like, we watch these videos and they tell us about like all the new schemes and things that are happening. They're telling us not just about stuff to watch out while we're at work, but like text messages and phone calls and all these different things. And then they also send out like test emails. And I've got once or twice where I click open an email and they're like, boom, you're not supposed to click that open. And so, you know, it really does open your eyes about how there are constantly all these things. And Teresa is our IT goddess. And so Teresa is always telling us, you know, don't open this from this person, or this is that. And so, you know, we have a dedicated individual who is constantly looking out for us. And I know, you know, a lot of our smaller nonprofits, you don't have that. So some of these resources are so necessary because these scammers are getting really creative.
You know what? We just ended Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I don't know if anyone knows that. We had put together a little offering for nonprofits. It had creating tech policies. It was really at a low rate, but then it was also setting up Know Before, and then getting our discounted rate on Know Before, because we work with nonprofits for that. So I will send that to you, Brittany. It was an email, but maybe you can get that out to nonprofits, and we can extend it into November. Even though it's not officially cybersecurity awareness.
Thank you.
But I think it also had like a penetration testing. You know, are you vulnerable? Can we get into stuff? So just really light some security check and balance. So it definitely is important. And Know Before is a great tool, but you also get scared, really, really scared to do anything.
You do.
And I've heard of organizations fining like their employees for opening attempts. Like they give them so many and they say, if you open them again, you owe us $50 for every time that you open a phishing attempt. So it just,
I send everything to Teresa. I'm like, forward or block Teresa. I don't know what this is, but
We've got a great staff though. I mean, they really follow protocol, and you really have to just think twice before you do anything.
Sometimes I stare at them for a while and I'm like, I don't know. I think I got a Know Before fish. Is that Know Before, or is that a legit fish? We also have a IT security checklist on our website. All the links are in here. I'm sure that we'll share the presentation, but it's just a good workbook to kind of go through and do a checklist. So questions?
we got one. So what do you do with a phishing attack email when you see it?
Delete it, don't forward it, don't reply to it. I think the biggest mistake someone can do is say, is this really you? And reply to it, because now you've just told the phisher, number one, you're replying to it. So they're like easy target. And now you're communicating with them. I have seen phishing attempts where they reply and then they then turn, oh yes, I did need those gift cards. So now you're communicating with the phisher.
Mel, this is Cindy Andrews. Thank you so much. I had to jump in here. I just came from a breakfast in Wellington, and we were talking about how even within our donor communities and parents and grandparents, just taking this information and sharing it with others to say, it is a scary world, and better safe than sorry. So we're delighted that we could share this information with the folks on the phone. And I think the really curiosity for me is the folks on the phone all come at this with different backgrounds and experiences, Mel. So how do you get started? I appreciate your sharing that offering from National Security Month. Who knew? But that it is the wide, wild west out there when it comes to the web. And, what are the one or two things that we could all do? And maybe it's this security assessment to get us started.
MFA, biggest thing. If you get a phishing attempt, and most of those will look like they come from Microsoft, and they'll say reset your password. Well, having MFA set up is not, if you are going to a phisher and you're trying to reset your password, MFA is going to block that, because it's going to be like, oops, we need to authenticate you who you are before we change your password. And that authentication is not going to go to the phisher. It's gonna, you know what I mean? It's gonna stop with you. There are horror stories though of, how we all use our cell phone number as authentication. One big horror story that I heard is you need to block the porting of your cell phone number or the phone you use for authentication at your carrier, because cell phone numbers are stolen. Then they have your authenticator app, and now they're authenticating as you. It's a really sophisticated world. MFA, you don't, if you're not using a tool or don't want to do something as elaborate as KnowBe4, Google, and then just have someone handpick some videos and share them with your staff. There are great articles out there, like in how to look for the 5 things to identify if it's a phishing attempt, misspellings, look at the sender, who the sender is, and does the domain match who says the organization is. There's so many different things, but great question, Cindy, and nice to see you.
Well, and I was just going to close with that. I hope you opened with this comment, Mel, about you guys being a nonprofit in support of nonprofits. I hope that word has already been conveyed to folks that are with us.
Of course.
Thank you. Just saying.
And I really quick, because I've had like multiple things. So like my Hulu subscription, I get, password reset stuff sent to my email like all the time because someone is trying to break into my Hulu account.
No, that's me borrowing your Hulu is what that is.
Go on and you're out the office and you have a away message. We constantly are getting emails that are saying they're from Cindy Andrews. But like you said, Melanie, when you look at the email address, it is not at peoplewhocare.org. It's something different. And so if you're moving so quickly, you just click on it, you're like, oh, Cindy doesn't need gift card. Like what? So, it really is important to kind of slow down and look at what you're doing, because it's pretty constant. I'm blocking people.
There is nonstop, and there's nonstop securities and stuff you can put into place. Like, so if so one big thing, your website, is your staff listed with all their email addresses, and is somebody able to go to that that website and say, hey, Cindy Andrews is the boss. All her staff are going to do what I like any request from Cindy Andrews. Your email addresses are there. They're pulling it. What you can do in that instance, because, is you can set up a policy. So anything coming from Cindy Andrews, if it's not internal in your network, it's a big red flag, external sender. And then it's not really Cindy. So there always is an answer or a security step you can take into reaction to, what might phish staff. So now we got through kind of the infrastructure. This is always my favorite point. Always the favorite thing I like to talk about. And I think this is where everyone has favorites, and it's productivity tools. So it's outside those unified systems, but also what helps us in our day-to-day work to just be more efficient and effective. This is where I think everyone loves to share the tools that they're using. So we'll provide plenty of opportunity to kind of do some sharing. If you're not familiar with TechSoup, this is my #1 resource, and I always do run into organizations who are not familiar with TechSoup. TechSoup is a marketplace for discounted or donated hardware, software, and they provide a lot of education. If you are struggling with Office 365 right now and you need some additional training, they partnered with Microsoft and have a really great Office 365 boot camp. So you can get that additional training that you need. And plus a host of other great resources and a very good partner of ours. So apps and tools and free resources. I think the best place to go and get apps, and something that is not really explored much, is you're using your Office 365 and your Google for file share, email, all of that, but there are app marketplaces within there. There are developers constantly developing apps that work with Office 365 and help you. Some of my favorites are Bookings. Bookings allows you to share your calendar, where individuals can then book an open space of time with you directly. So no more email back and forth trying to find a good time to meet. Which brings me to my next resource through Microsoft. It's called Find Time. I'm not sure if you guys are all familiar with Doodle Poll, but setting up different various meeting options that, say you're trying to coordinate a meeting with 5 different individuals, you can use Find Time, pick the times that you are available, send it out to the group. They all vote on their time. Once the most popular time, that'll come back to you and say, is this the time you want to set for the meeting? You say yes, and everybody gets a calendar invite. No more back and forth coordination. Very helpful, I think, if you're planning your board meetings for the upcoming year and you're working with so many different individuals on setting up a common time. We're seeing a lot of organizations really start to use Power Automate in Office 365, automating some common day-to-day tasks. So if an email is sent to, say, a general email box at info, and you typically reply to that like, hey, can you give us some more information? You can Power Automate a lot of those functions to where staff don't have to manually do them. And then I think one thing that's really overlooked in Office 365 is forms. It's built in the Office 365. It's a survey tool. It's getting better and better over time, but you have forms as part of your Office 365. So maybe if you're paying for a survey tool, maybe forms might meet your need. All of these other forms too, like we all use LinkedIn. Integrating LinkedIn with your Office 365. So then when you pull up your email, you really get a full profile pic of who it is that you're working with. There are just so many. It's really hard to go. I know, like my analytics, I don't know if you guys get your daily, like, you were not productive this week. No, I'm just kidding. It's like, you didn't respond to
You
this
have
many
too much
emails
free
this week.
time. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. What?
What are you talking about? I had 40% free time
Right.
this week. No, I didn't see that 40% free time. So just those great tools within the app marketplace. Again, someone should say, hey, we're using this great new tool, because you don't want someone using Booking, someone using Calendly and using other tools. So deploy these to the whole organization, train, teach, and then set some policies around them.
Melanie, I want to co-sign. We actually just started using forms. So if you participated in Connect to a Cause as an organization, that follow-up survey, we use forms because we do have Microsoft Office. And then I use productivity too. So I go ahead each week and it automatically blocks off 2 hours. It's called my focus time. So no one can do meetings or anything during those hours. It's normally first thing in the morning. So that way I can check emails and all that stuff. So it's like falling down a rabbit hole once you start to use some of these apps, because they really are convenient. And I didn't know that I could just download them and use them. So it's really cool.
Yep. On the other side, you got Google. So for those, there are some organizations using Google's. I think we're all familiar with Google Forms. Jamboard is a really cool tool in Google that you don't hear much about. It's a kind of like a whiteboard. So when you're hosting a meeting, if you do use Google Meet, you can pull up Jamboard and kind of share and collaborate on whiteboard. Teams, if you're on Office 365, also has the great whiteboard and all of that. And then sites in Google. That is, we see organizations creating their board site there. They're creating their internal communication site there. It's just structured a little bit different than Microsoft. And then Google has apps all over the place. You know what I mean? Everyone integrates with Google or Office 365. So if you're using something like a HubSpot or a CRM, always look for that integration. My favorite in Office 365 is Planner. So if you are not using Planner, so we're going to talk about some project management tools. Planner, and it just helps you work with your team on projects and get them done. I'm pretty sure at this point, Microsoft 365 is now also integrated to do with this. So not only can you have Planner and assign tasks and all that, you can also assign to-do lists for various staff. Like, I need you to do this by this date, or this is your task and do it by this date. So very great tool. Again, in Google, it's going to be a site. It's not as sophisticated. You can create a project site and do all of that. Your needs are more robust for project management. Most nonprofits are using these. Asana is a great project management, Monday, Slack, Basecamp, and Trello. What's great about these tools is like Monday and Asana, say you're working on a strategic plan and you have some goals, they already have templates built in for strategic planning and how to do kind of that project management around strategic planning. Or if it's communications, they have some great templates and bundles you can use. ClickUp is another project management tool. And obviously we all love the free forever. So anything that says free forever, we're going to run towards. It's great for small organizations, and then you can communicate and collaborate with remote work features. I think these tools are important if you're using something like a Box or a Dropbox and you're not using a unified cloud solutions. These tag on nicely to those so that you don't have to make that big move if you're not ready. Notion.so is just a great another collaborative workplace. It's like a 3D digital notebook. So if you're not using notes in Office 365, or if you want to use this in addition, it's just a great place to take notes, pull in tables, track to-dos, link to other docs, pull in media files. There's lots of templates, and plus it's 3D, which is pretty cool.
For registered nonprofit in good standing, that would only be all of us that are on this call this morning.
So are we using anything for project management? Anyone want to share?
We're not using anything right now, but what would be the advantage? Well, we have the planner through Microsoft 365, but if you have external board members and committee members, what would you go with them? Because they would not have access to Planner, right?
Yes, they can. You would give them guest access. So
Okay.
within Teams, even like if you wanted to do your board meetings in Teams, you can allow them guest access just to view that particular area. So you would create a user group and say they have guest access. This is what they're allowed to see and do. So yes, you can assign your board member tasks.
And they would be guests.
Yes.
Well, not really, Mel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did she
Paris,
cut out?
thank you. To-do lists.
To-do list. Yay,
Put
Paris.
something in the chat.
It's always great to give out someone else to-do lists, isn't it? Just kidding. Design and communications. I'm not sure how many of you are doing using communication tools or design tools. Design tools, obviously, if you're in design, you know that there's the Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that is part of the Adobe Creative Suite. It really takes some time to learn those programs. They're pretty involved. and they're pretty expensive. You can get your 50% off discount through TechSoup, but it's still going to probably run you $40 a month per user for those tools. So Canva is a great option. I'll share a little bit more about that. And then in email marketing, I would say the top 2 email marketing systems nonprofits use is MailChimp and Constant Contact. But of course, we're going to share some other tools. So Design, Photopea, and Pixlr, they're pretty much similar to Adobe Photoshop, but they're free. And they look very similar in appearance. So obviously they're copying them.
So Mel, are
Canva-
these open source kinds of things that folks have just come together and created these free templates? I mean, it just seems like
Some
the
are open
for-profits would
source,
say,
some are software as a service. So a lot
Okay.
of for-profit companies, they understand supporting the nonprofit sector is important. So they might be getting paid from their for-profit counterparts or other users, but they open them up to nonprofits just to be good stewards. Canva is free for qualified nonprofits. But it really is easy to create professional graphics and infographics. There are so many pre-built templates. If you never took foot into creating Photoshop or Illustrator, Canva, I think a kindergartner can go in there and do some great social media posts and create videos. It's really easy, intuitive to use. There's a lot of stock images in there. And then just really incredible. You can create images and share them right to social media right in there. You can also share and collaborate on design. Say you're working with a partner and you're going back and forth on verbiage or wordage or the design. You can actually share an editable link with them to also be able to edit on it. It's a really great tool.
Mel, you're gonna have to change that example because you're right. Many kindergartners could do more than some of us today. So that might not be the right one to use.
Okay, I'll think of something else.
There you go.
If you're managing multiple social media channels, Hootsuite is a great option. You do pay, but it's pretty low cost, but it allows you to manage all of your social feeds, your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anything like that that takes time. Also lets you also share with those that might not be in charge of your social media, but like Cindy, if you wanted to see what was going on in your social channels, all in one place, you would have a clear picture of who's interacting with you, what's going on in your social sites, and then just being able to manage that. One thing about Hootsuite is it does not help in terms of Instagram and the ease of posting to Instagram. That's always a problem when you're in communications, just making sure that you're posting to Instagram. So Planoli helps
Wow.
with Instagram. Again, if you're not using your Google ad grants, Google gives organizations $10,000 a month in free ad grants. You will have every marketing firm reaching out to you saying, hey, I can help you with your Google ad grants. Let's help set you up. That is a way for them to get into your door, for them then to sell you more marketing services. So what you want to do is Google, if you want to outsource that component, they have students who will actually help you set up those campaigns, because it is a very tricky world to be in the Google ad grant management. There's price per words. Nonprofits are giving you 10,000 free a month, but you have to be really specific in your ad grant creation in order to get that search engine traffic back to your organization. Fundraising, donor management. Give Lively offers fundraising tools for nonprofits. They're always building something exciting, and current offerings include like text to donate, peer-to-peer fundraising, event ticketing, online raising displays for events. This was created by a philanthropist and it's free forever for nonprofits. So it's an anonymous philanthropist who wanted to build upon fundraising technology for nonprofits and give it away for free. Any design tools, communication tools, anything you'd recommend? Anyone using something they love and want to share?
Canva is really great. I mean, it's so easy to use. If you've ever tried to go into an Adobe product and try to do something there, it's hard.
I was self-taught in Adobe and I'll never forget the first time I opened it and I'm like, what are they talking about layers? What am I doing with layers? And then trying to build a graphic design. I got through it, I learned it. But then for those of us who have learned those more robust design tools, and then you see something like Canva, you're like, I wasted all that time and energy. I could have just got Canva.
I would say we at the Community Foundation, we do use Adobe. So we use InDesign and Illustrator, and Teresa and I are self-taught. And we do have our free nonprofit Canva account. And what's really cool actually is too, you can have multiple users. For a while, we were working off one account. But now, since there's more people in our organization who are kind of designing their own things, they have their own accounts that are all tied to the Community Foundation. And what I can do as the marketing communications officer is I can set the branding guidelines. So like, you need to use these colors and you need to use this type and this stuff. And so it's really awesome. We also use MailChimp. That is how we do our communications. And it's great because, you know, you can send an email personally to a lot of people, but it goes straight to their spam. But when you use MailChimp, they now have it where it's integrated with Canva. So I can design something and kind of send it over through the backside. And there's just so many things. And it's like, you have to take some of these classes. We have Google Grant. And so I got trained to be able to use that. And it is very, very intense. But
Yeah.
It's opportunities that you can still get some notoriety for your organization. So I am going to be looking and applying for a student, because you're right. As soon as you get your Google Grants, you have a lot of individuals who are like, hey, we can help you. And I'm like, but we don't need all that help. So here, I'm glad. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to look for one.
Yeah, because they'll be like, oh, we can help you set that up. Oh, and then by the way, we can do this and this. And it's really an involved process. It's not something to take lightly. And it's great that Google offers that, but you need to know how to use those free AdWords.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Give Lively has an API for Salesforce. If there is no API, I don't know. Maybe. If not, it might be coming. I might check for Give Lively.
Mel, can you go back 2 slides? Because I have a question. I'm sure some other folks might also. Right here, Give Lively, payment processor fees, Stripe and PayPal do apply. We build better fundraising tech. So this is, I'm not sure what this is.
The payment processor fees,
No, the
It's
Give
to get-
Lively.
donations, text to donate.
So is Give Lively in place of Stripe and PayPal? I'm trying to get a sense of
Oh,
what Give Lively is.
Anytime you process payments online, there are processor fees. And credit
2%,
card fees.
3%.
Right.
Right.
So what it's saying is it's free forever, but if you are going to use it, you're not going to get away from those processor fees such as Stripe and PayPal. Those fees will still apply to any donations.
So this would be a tool that we would use in addition to something else that we're using. I'll talk to Britt. I'm not really, I'm
So like,
confused.
do they send emails? Is it something we put on our website? Like you said, there's like templates and stuff, but like how, if I'm a nonprofit, how do you
use this?
yes. Does that make sense?
Again, you're gonna have to go and look at it and see if it's gonna meet your needs. Later on, I'm gonna share a guide to donor management systems.
Thank
And
you.
a lot of this is also built into there. But I
Okay.
think a lot of organizations just have their annual fundraising event. And so they want to have the ability to text to give, do some ticketing if it's an event, whatever. I'm not saying this is the most robust or all-encompassing system. That's a big decision, changing donor management systems, because a lot of these functions are built in there. This is for that small nonprofit who says, wait, I want text to donate and I want the ease of getting fundraising and having those tools. It's a great place because it's free.
Well, and Mel, the reason I asked the question, I look at the folks that are on the phone with us, and many of us don't have separate donor management systems. And so, you know, Paris and Pam and Norva, I'm just looking through this to say, wow, I wonder if this is something that some of us could play with a little bit, but go ahead.
I will share our #1 downloaded resource here in a little bit when it comes to fundraising and donor management systems that
Thank you.
will help every nonprofit. Data. Who doesn't love data? There's so much you can do with data. But collecting it, whether it be in a CRM, whether it be any other source, and then what do you do with that data once you have it is always the biggest question. We have a whole series on data systems. So again, I'll show you where to get those resources after this. A very cool tool that has hit the market and a lot of nonprofits are using is Airtable. It's like a database spreadsheet hybrid. So say you have an inventory project, say you have contact management, say you want photos, tags, and notes. There's a lot of pre-built templates like contact management. If you're not using anything for contact management, again, here's something to easily get you started. Also integrates with email marketing. You're going to find a lot of these all integrate with like MailChimp or anything like that. But if you definitely have, if you're doing a lot of sheets and Excel sheets and you want to connect different things and you're not that great at pivot tables and you forgot how to do that because you don't do, this is a very easy tool to use and learn. When it comes to analytics, Power BI is part of Microsoft 365, but it just lets you take your data and put it in a visual platform so that you can easily digest. Whether it be a board dashboard that you want to take your data and have a, a Power BI dashboard that shows all of your activities. This is something you can automate and not have to do monthly on an annual basis. If you want to publish something to your website that says, look at all this great work that we're doing, use your data source and code it in Power BI to be able to have that. Also helps you identify, really diving down in the data at a detailed level. Where are we having the most impact now and where can we expand our reach and map it and really just understand your data at a whole different level. Power BI is kind of Microsoft's version of it. And then you have Tableau, which has always been around. But again, it's a great data visualization tool. There's a great mapping tool. It allows for custom branding. Tableau right now is $58 for 2 years through TechSoup. And I think rumor had it, and I think I'm pretty sure is Tableau was purchased by Salesforce. So once a product gets big enough and has more capability, it's usually bought up by another vendor. So I think Salesforce has bought Tableau so that it can increase its reporting capabilities. And then security. We talked about this, but having like a LastPass or a password manager, LastPass will generate complex, almost impossible to crack passwords and stores them, so you don't need to keep track of them. The passwords don't live on a server. They live in a password vault, so only you can access them. Probably, I would recommend a password manager, and this is why I would. And I'll just share from my personal experience. When I spent my 20 years at BVU, I held a lot of accounts, a lot of passwords, a lot of management. We didn't use a password manager there. I kind of just had accounts everywhere. Upon my termination or upon me leaving, it would have been great to go in and say, take all her access away from these. Let's not give her access to those And now we got someone else hired. Let's assign all the passwords to her. And this is the user. Say you have an employee leave. Yes, we know all of these lists of softwares and all that we have organization information, but manually going and blocking out access from a staff member that leaves is time consuming. LastPass, you remove them. It's ease of use. So LastPass is one password is another. They give some competitive discounts for nonprofits. If you want to use a tool, even if they don't spell out nonprofit discount on the top thing, call them. Say, do you offer a nonprofit discount? Search for that nonprofit discount, because 9 times out of 10, that nonprofit discount exists. Again, here's KnowBe4. So if you are interested in KnowBe4, Brittany will share the one security offering we have, but you can also get KnowBe4 on TechSoup. There's a little bit of a setup fee because your email accounts and all that need to be set up. And then you get the diamond level KnowBe4 for $2 per user per month. And I'll be honest, we are partners with TechSoup. So when you fill out that thing for KnowBe4, it comes to us and we'll be setting up your account. So any questions? Anything you want to share?
Well, we do use LastPass and I am grateful for it. Just as you said, if somebody leaves, it's very easy to make the transition. The important thing with that is you have to create a really good master password. And if you have to log out of the vault every day and log back in, otherwise you will forget your master password. And I think in the beginning, they made it difficult for like even the administrator to go out there and reset somebody's password. So yeah, I really love it.
There are others too. There's like ACTA. ACTA is free for up to 50 users for nonprofits. Single sign-on in Office 365, obviously having to say, is this an authorized user before doing that? One myth is for passwords to have individuals change their passwords often. That is an old myth. You want less password change and you want more complex. So complexity, not frequency.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm running out of song titles.
Words is probably not the best policy for setting up a complex password.
I didn't say it was all the words, you know, just my own little thing, Mel.
There you go.
Yeah, I will say with LastPass, yeah, it definitely puts all like the hyphens and the different signs that I would never remember. So the passwords are stronger. But the one part that I like is that we can share them with other people in the office. So like I'm not the only person who needs to get on social media all the time. So I can share it to Teresa. And when I change it, it automatically updates it. And then I also, there's an app that you can put on your phone. So, you know, when I'm trying to do something and someone calls and asks a question, I can hurry up and just open it and go right straight from my phone. So without LastPass, I wouldn't survive.
Also, if Google comes up and do you want me to save this password? What do you say? No Google.
Oh,
No Google saving your passwords. No Google password manager. Because who do you think they're all after? Google. So I would advise not to.
That tip, no, thank you. But knowing we've got so many other folks on the phone with us that don't have a Teresa in their office, Carrie or Stephanie or Paris, Norva, are there any questions that while we have Mel and some other Community Foundation staff, we'd love to just open it up to see if there are other thoughts or other things that you might need help with.
I don't have any questions. I'm over here like, oh my gosh.
I know,
so much
Paris,
work
that's
to
why
do.
I'm saying, right.
Okay, so I'm very optimistic, but I'm like, I didn't think of this. I didn't think of that. I have another person that does social media with me, and every time we change the password, I'm like, I forgot. I'm sorry. So I'm definitely it's gonna help us though. It's okay.
Okay, good.
But to hear that, I'm like, what was the password for this grant system? We only go in it twice a year.
Yes.
So like those kind of things, I didn't even think of that. Like I have a whole list. and then little clues for myself, but that's not helpful. Sometimes I forget. So that's interesting. And then security systems. What does that look like here as we have, contracted staff coming in and out? How are we making sure that they still don't have access to the information? I don't think I ever really thought about that. So thanks.
Nice to meet you, Paris.
Nice to meet you too.
And Paris the rock star, she is on the cover of Mercy's latest magazine, Paris.
Oh, am I? That is wonderful.
Man, we have it floating around the office.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
And the story inside, page 2. Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's great.
And Miss Marva, if you're trying to talk, you got to unmute yourself. I don't know if you're trying to talk or not.
She was.
Nope. You got to unmute. Let me see. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. How are you?
I'm fine. I think I'll echo because it's a very small organization. It's kind of overwhelming, but
yes,
there are things that I think that I could implement. So this was very, very important to me, and so I think I've gained more knowledge than I ever want to know. But
yes,
I do know there's some things that we need to work on as far as security and some of the things that we can implement now while we're yet small, that as it grows, then it won't be such a problem.
Yes.
I
and
think,
thank goodness I do have someone to, yes?
I'm sorry, what did you say? You have someone to, you're kind of breaking up from me.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize. It's okay.
Okay, I do have someone that could help, and then I may be even contacting you. I remember Paris, so I just might give her a call as well, and just learn some things.
And I think nonprofits, we're so budget minded and we try to do everything ourselves. And I think you have to understand that you're not always going to have all the expertise you need. So if you have to rely on a partner or outsource, it sets you up now for the future. And Norva, you said one thing is we want to grow. So make sure that your infrastructure and everything that you're doing right now is set right before you grow into that growth pattern. Because you don't want to be the organization who grew to 50 staff. I don't know if that's what your anticipated growth is, but you didn't have a strong infrastructure to start, and then making those changes once you get larger is just so much more complex. So investing a little now will help you in the future.
So Mel, for the folks that are on the phone who don't have a staff of 50, but maybe have a staff of 2, 3, or a half dozen, is there something that you would suggest as the first step? So let's just say over the next 60 days, we're going to look at this, right? I've got the month of November, month of December. It's a crazy time, but I'm going to look at this. And then come January, I'm going to look at this. So are there, kind of immediate things you would think about? And then going into a new year, you would think about?
I would say it's always infrastructure. If you're underwater in certain areas, if you don't have updated hardware, that is critical because no one can do your job with outdated hardware. When you're purchasing hardware, make better choices. Don't run to Best Buy and get the $3.99 special. Make sure that you're investing in business grade equipment that has business operating systems on it. I think I find that the most is where everyone will be using Windows 10 Home in an organization. So their computers weren't bought business class. And then, business class is just more durable. It's more secure. So, first thing is purchasing. Have a budget. But like if anything, now is the time. If you're on a calendar year, make sure you have technology budget built in for next year. If you're not budgeting for technology, then
can't do these things. Yep.
And you'd be surprised they don't. Nonprofits just don't. I think also it's great to talk about free and low cost software and options, but I think sometimes the mindset of nonprofits is technology is always free to me because TechSoup has, been so great to us over the years, and Microsoft and Google, that you really do have to pay to have some of these enhanced features. And then I would say if your email, your file share, and your calendar are not in all one place, if staff doesn't know how to use it, if you're not using it effectively, if you're having trouble doing video meetings, then you have to definitely want to look at adopting a unified system for that. And then also ensuring that you're getting proper training and adoption for that.
All right, Mel, we asked for one or two things, so don't overwhelm us.
And you know what? I have a question, Julie. As organizations like strategic plan, do you see them having like a goal or things around technology? Because I just feel like it's changing every day. I know from social media, Facebook won't be Facebook pretty soon. So like, are people putting that in their strategic plan?
Yes, many are, making a goal around infrastructure. So sometimes you're having a goal that stands alone about your infrastructure, or sometimes you're embedding it into, you might have a goal around your programs or fundraising, and know that then, we need to update our CRM, or we need to invest in some new system so that we can do, telemedicine. Obviously now everybody's figured that out, but 3 years ago, that might have been a goal for some organizations. So definitely. So whether you're doing your annual planning or you're doing that big picture, we're looking 3 to 5 years down the road, it doesn't get done if you don't prioritize it and invest in it. Like Mel was saying, as you're working on your budgets for next year, make sure that you're accounting for, do we need to update half of our computers? What's the rotation look like, or anything else that we're going to be doing?
Hey, Julie, knowing we've got a couple folks that are having audio challenges, you mentioned the Ask the Expert sessions coming up. For folks that aren't familiar with that, could you share what are the 1 or 2 things that are most popular, or especially this time of year, that folks might want to join you with a free, 1-hour consult with an expert from Lorain County? Imagine that.
Yeah, so we have Ask the Expert coming up. And we have another one in December, and our Lorain County nonprofits can take advantage of either of those, whatever they need. And so the easiest thing to do is to reach out to Kimberly on our team, and we can put her email address in the chat and find out. So if we can find out what your needs are, then we can match you with an expert who can provide that assistance. I know we have some folks who have cybersecurity, or if we're thinking about, social media planning for next year, somebody who can sit down with you and spend an hour. So it's either jump starting or getting some guidance on a project, or even just, that back and forth Q&A, like, I don't even know where to start. Give me some guidance. Mel has done these for us in the past. And again, it's, a great way to take advantage of the resources and the expertise that is already in our community. So I would encourage you to, I know that Molly just put Kimberly's email in the chat, so you can reach out to her directly, and we are happy to make that match.
Britt, I'm thinking HR was one of the topics. Britt, do you recall other things that folks have most asked for in the last couple sessions?
I would say fundraising and marketing. And I was going to say, we're not at the end yet, but when we send out these surveys to our nonprofits, we really are taking that feedback, and we are planning our year around what you're asking for. So, whatever it is that you need, tell us. We know one of the popular things that people ask for is like governance, right? Board governance. That's why we kind of do rule of the board every year. And then we kind of line up our Ask the Expert sessions to do what you need. So I know fundraising is one. Like I said, marketing is something that came up. And so, we're really fluid, and we really do go look for these individuals who are experts in those areas. And we do our good job of tapping into board members, board emeritus members, and even people in our office. So, please sign up for these because they're awesome opportunities.
I think Teresa should be at Ask the Expert because really impressed with how well she managed the IT at the foundation. And I would consider you an expert, Teresa.
She's a rock star.
Yes, she is. She is. Oh, speaking of resources, we have a whole technology learning center. So we ask nonprofits, how do they prefer to learn? Is it webinars, on demand, in person? We do have an annual in person that I think everyone is looking forward to us getting together again. But really what we heard is on demand. Meet us when we can learn, and meet us in tidbits and buckets for that on demand. So let us kind of control how we're learning. So we have a nonprofit technology learning center. So pretty much any topic related to technology, security, everything, go to our technology learning center and search for it. Most trainings are free.
Mel, have you announced a date for 2022?
For our annual?
Yes.
No, I think it's.
Come on.
I think it's still, is it going to be in person? I know it's going to be in Colorado though.
Oh, Teresa.
Wow.
You learn and you have fun. So I'll just say that. And you know,
There you
Cindy,
go.
because you know Linda.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, fun.
When my out of office really is, yes, I'm out of the office. You'll know where I am.
And then, like I said, our most valued resource, the most important resource I think nonprofits use, is a consumer's guide to low-cost fundraising software. This year, we took an approach. It's not just a one-all report. So what we did is we looked at the 26 most common donor management systems, and we broke it down into what are the features of these systems, what do they do, how to select the system that's right for you, comparison charts, profiles. So really when you go integrations, do they do email marketing, anything you can think of that a low-cost fundraising software would do, this guide is the #1 resource. It's used by consultants to help nonprofits. I will say it'll tell, again, in here is Salesforce, is it right for you? I will say Little Green Light is a very common donor management system. It's used by most small nonprofits to start kick their donor management system. This is going to give you price, features, all of that. So what we aim to do as part of our Tech Impact Ideal is do the research for you. So we just saved you a ton of research right here.
Right.
Here's a whole list of other tools that I just didn't have time, but I guess I could have had time because we have 10 minutes left. But just some other tools you want to check out when you get the presentation. And then I'm always available if you have a question or want to connect. If you're, I'll share you my Calendly link and you can book a half hour with me and we can talk through any issues you might be having or questions.
Awesome. Well, Melanie, thank you so much. We appreciate all the insight that you have given us. We all have notes and we will be booking with you very soon.
Okay.
I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
Want everyone to have a good weekend. It's been a pleasure to be here on a Friday morning, and hopefully I didn't overwhelm or scare.
Well, thanks. Before we let you go, are there any other questions with folks on the phone? Because we don't get together that often. So
I have a question. I don't think the notes that I took would compare to the PowerPoint. Is there any way that we could get a copy of the PowerPoint so that we could follow it to even ask a question about what we need to want and where will we go next and who to contact? Okay.
Great.
Yes, so we are going to send out a follow-up email. We'll have the PowerPoint. We'll also have the link to this recording. So not only can you watch it again, but you can share it with those people in your organization that are there to help you. And then we're also going to have a survey. So like I said earlier, we really take your feedback and we use it to build what we're going to do in 2022. So please tell us what your needs are. And as always, if you need something in between time, I don't know if I'm an expert, but I am willing to help you and talk things out with you. And I'm sure anyone on our team is. So please reach out to us. Let us know if you just need, an hour to talk to us. We'll come visit. If, we're vaccinated at this point, we can come visit and stay a distance and just think some things through and figure out how we can connect you to the best people to help you.
Yes, thank you. That's very helpful, and it was a pleasure meeting you online today.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Or anything else from anybody?
Thank you. I learned a lot, and I will process, and we will start somewhere. So thank you.
That's great.
Well, thanks everyone. And Mel, I just want to say thank you. And I think like if we're on an investment call, we think about all the things that we need to look up because we're not sure of certain definitions. And I think technology is very much like that. Teresa's been doing this for, I won't say how many years, Teresa, but for those of us that, what's that?
Yeah, almost 20.
Almost 20 years. And so I just think, Teresa and Mel have grown up in this field. And I want to say how complex it was, continues to be, and yet now there's some simple tools that we can all use. And so I do think it's a learning process, but it's still alphabet soup. And, not to be afraid to raise your hand. And as Britt suggested, our staff is available, and just delighted that you can be with us this morning.
I enjoyed it. Anytime I can help, I'm willing to do it. Thank
And
you.
she's got her Community Foundation blue on. So thank you, Mel.
Yes, I did that just for you. Have a great weekend,
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks,
Be
Melanie.
well.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.